in retrospect, like, oh, we should have capitalized. Well, now we have a beautiful chance to capitalize and be proactive rather than reactive. So I'm not going to speak all day. I'm just going to give that introduction. And Mr. Guest, if you would please introduce yourself, let us know a little bit about what you do, and we'll get into the questions.
And feel free to move that mic and
I'm good right here.
Yeah,
so
you can.
You don't got to raise your hand to jump in the conversation.
All right, no, thanks for having me. My name is Peter Marlette. I'm the president of Buffalo Pro Soccer, which is the organization that is bringing professional soccer to Buffalo. And you mentioned missed opportunities and stuff like that. You referenced the stadium going out in Orchard Park. One thing that I've said from day one when this was announced a few months ago, and frankly that I've been working on for months prior to that, is we're going to have to build our own stadium, and it has to be in the city of Buffalo. So we will not be going to the suburbs. We will be having this game, the world's game, the most popular game in the world, here in Buffalo at a professional level. And that's an opportunity that was given to me. I've been running a team in USL, this league, before for the past 3 years. And when the league approached me and asked if Buffalo was a market that was ready for pro soccer and if I was ready to do it, I jumped at it. I resigned from my previous employment the next day.
Okay, you can bring it down.
Let me just say, listeners, you can join the conversation at 716-837-1112. And let's stay on topic. I mean, this is a serious topic. If you look around, a lot of folks already invested in soccer. We got plenty of kids in Buffalo playing soccer. You already see the Buffalo Bills got them a soccer player, which shows the diverse talents within a soccer player because of at the level of athleticism that they play. But what's even more important, if you're watching the rising tide, the game is rising here in the area. So what you're hearing is an opportunity to get your mind thinking, to talk to Steve about what. Look at me, floating name. I'm not gonna try and get. But it's a chance for you to call in and talk to him about how can you get connected. He's gonna be telling us that and how to follow up. And I'm just saying this is an important moment. You may not think soccer is all that to you because you've been kind of overfed football and basketball, but there's a diverse arena, sports activity that are beginning to rise in Buffalo, and we have an opportunity to take part of it. Now, I don't end by saying this. Now, there are some parts that, of course, while it's under development, you won't necessarily hear about. But the part you're hearing about is the level at which you can become engaged and be part of it as it rises up. I'm just telling you, it's an enriching moment. And if you could hear what I'm saying and understand what I'm saying, this is about you and somebody And I'll shut up.
And I do have a question. Before I get to that question, I can't let Mr. Murray slip in and not say hello. Good morning, Mr. Murray. How are you doing today?
It's hot. I just was ripping and running with our youth in our program over at St. John's Baptist Church in Kissimmee. They're working on the garden plan over there in the Buffalo Black Billion. So it's got 15 kids over there now investing in that effort there. So I ran in here and talked to the brother on the phone yesterday and told him just come on in. What opportunity. I mean, soccer is they call it football. Right.
That's right.
Originally football. So, but like you said, Mr. Anderson, with diversity happening in our community, that seems to be the number one sport right now. I just seen on the news this morning they had a tournament.
Yeah, right? It was Copa America in Miami. The final last night, Argentina against Colombia.
That's right.
Complete sellout. Actually, I mean, they had to delay kickoff about an hour because people were rushing the stadium. It's too popular. Right.
It's a serious game. I was in Miami when the World Cup was going on 3 years ago. And you're talking about a draw for a community. Not only people, up early in the morning to watch them games, because when they're playing overseas, it ain't like our regular time here. But it's so beautiful. And I mean, everybody was into it. All kind of artifacts that were being sold. People rooting for their team. Hey, look, I'm telling you, folks, don't miss out on this.
And I have no doubt that we'll, especially like you said, touch on the how much prosperity that could potentially bring to the city. Before we get there, I'm gonna have us take even a step back just for my understanding and others that are listening. I personally know two young men myself, who had football or soccer dreams, but didn't really have an avenue to go for it because it felt like for them, this wasn't really a city that supported that. But what I want you to maybe touch on a little bit, how big right now in Buffalo is the soccer scene with the youth and with people around? Because I know that there's maybe what people call a silent community, but it's definitely there. So help our listeners understand how big soccer already is in Buffalo.
Yeah, well, I mean, we know that it's the biggest sport in the world, and we know that Buffalo is welcoming new Buffalonians from all over the world every day, and they're bringing with them this culture of soccer that they grew up with and wherever they're coming from. If you drive by Front Park on a Saturday, if you go by the turf at Nichols on a Saturday, if you, if you go by not All High, the
McCarthy Park.
Yeah,
McCarthy
exactly,
Park,
exactly. Yes. There's pickup soccer games going on, and it's a bunch of people who look different, who are clearly from a bunch of different places, and this is the world's game. It's an opportunity for them to come together on the same field, play with each other, play against each other, and just love this game together. So the scene in Buffalo from a youth perspective and from a participation perspective is phenomenal. What it's missing, and what it's been missing forever, is a top of the pyramid, a professional team.
Yeah. So that's what you're trying to bring a professional team here.
That's exactly right. So I have the rights to a USL championship, which is full professional soccer. It's a national league, 24 teams across the country, with Brooklyn coming next year as an expansion team. And if all goes to plan, and it is so far, Buffalo coming in 2026. It is the second division of professional soccer in the U.S. Most people in the U.S. know Major League Soccer, where Lionel Messi plays and stuff like that. This is the division right beneath that, but it's not, it's not semi-pro. It's not amateur stuff. These guys are full professionals. They're from all over the world. They represent their national teams. These are serious professional players. And we're going to be able to host a really high level of pro soccer here in Buffalo, bringing in top athletes from all over the world to play. But also, you mentioned you got a couple of friends who, had the game but didn't have anywhere to nurture it. As part of our expansion agreement in this league, it is a league requirement to have an academy system beneath the pro team. So those players who do show that love for the game and then that ability to build careers in it, we can provide that pathway as soon as this team's up and running. Wow. There's a player from Buffalo, a young guy named Abdi Salim, who's playing in Major League Soccer right now. I used to play with him. I played with his brother, who's a few years older. But Abdi Salim grew up in Buffalo, went to Buff State for a couple of years, transferred to Syracuse, and then got himself drafted. He's an unbelievable player in Major League Soccer and is playing there in Orlando right now. But Abdi is an exception to the rule. And it's not, yes, he's unbelievably talented. He is uniquely good at this game. But there are other players coming up through Buffalo who are also uniquely good at this game, who don't, for whatever reason, don't get lucky, don't get spotted by the right person.
You're absolutely correct. Yeah. So what makes you a candidate for this to happen in Buffalo? I'm quite sure people have came to City Hall and through the county and through legislation. What roles have you taken to get this on the table or the format in government to really push this thing through? Because it always takes, and Jim Anderson has shown us this there, you got to go through procedures. Are you there yet, or are you just bringing this out the bottle today?
No. This has been out for a few months now, and I've been working on it quietly for months prior to that as well. But no, I've met with virtually every elected official in the county, city, state, for that matter, that's relevant to our area here. Mayor Brown is 100% on board with this project. And the reason that I was presented with the opportunity to bring this team is because I was general manager. I was running the club in USL in Omaha, Nebraska for the past 3 years. and did so very successfully. We won the league twice. We won the playoff championship once. And then something that's really unique about soccer, professional soccer in the U.S., is something called the Open Cup. And that's a tournament where every team in the country is welcome to participate. And it goes from Major League Soccer down to amateur soccer. Every team in the country, every adult men's team in the country is able to participate. In my time in Omaha playing against Major League Soccer teams in Open Cup, we beat the Chicago Fire in Soldier Field in front of their fans. We beat Minnesota United, another MLS team, in front of their fans in Minneapolis. We beat teams in higher divisions all the time. This is a high level of soccer. I was given this opportunity because I successfully ran a club in this league. They knew that I was from Buffalo. The league, when I say they, I'm referring to the executives at the league. They knew I was from Buffalo. They knew I wanted to get home. They knew I was passionate about this place. And they recognized that this is a great market for this league as well. So the stars kind of aligned.
I think you made a good move in whatever it took to position yourself towards the professional league. And I think listeners need to hear very deeply in this conversation. While that's being developed, there's, as was mentioned, is the academy. So there are two levels of development going on. One is at this big team level of pro players, and the other is at developing young players in the area, creating a bridge, an opportunity that they might make it to pro level, but the organizing of those activities would be huge. I'll tell you why I say that. I pass around a lot of streets where young people are playing soccer either on the corner of a field or in the street between whether or not traffic comes. And it doesn't be at the high level, but they're playing a game they like. And what we need is some kind of organized setting that begins to give them where they can come together, learn from each other, have competitive, not better than, but playing at level that require them to demonstrate what they can do. I think this is huge for a lot of young people. And as Austin mentioned, having friends who many of us know play the game, but we don't think it could go anywhere other than them playing the game. What you're doing offers an opportunity. And I'm so looking forward to you telling people how to stay in touch or keep up, see something.
No, I appreciate it. And the website's easy. It's buffaloprosoccer.com. Go to buffaloprosoccer.com to keep up. Also, we're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Our social medias vary, but it's all Buff Pro Soccer, Buffalo Pro Soccer. You can find us if you search.
They got high school. They have high school soccer.
Schools have it. I mean, particularly the private schools.
Well, but there's
the international school plays, and this is what I'm saying. But they need an uptick that is in community that keeps these young folks learning, not only developing their skills, the rules of the game, because when you get in there, whether you play it or not, if you could become some aspect of employment in that, whether you're an announcer, whether you score thing, whatever the different aspect, there are multiple opportunities. And you learn, this is how you begin. You don't wait to go and then think and then spend more years learning. You have an opportunity while they're fresh and young, energetic, and I think wonderful opportunity for the area to bring in organized income instead of spending it on something that comes by and keep going. We can have activities here that are more wholesome. I'd say so many plus. And
no, I appreciate it. And you talk about the opportunities. There's of course in the game, on the field, you mentioned that, but there's also around the game in general. If you have that pro team,
you might be a coach.
There's coaching, there's scouting, there's more and more. It's similar to baseball in that, and similar to every sport. Analytics are coming into the game so much recently. In Omaha, we hired a kid out of college. He was still in college at the time, but he was just obsessed with soccer statistics. He played FIFA video games growing up, and he was obsessed with it. we gave him his first job in the game,
See?
and he's, that type of opportunity.
Scholarship opportunities.
Well,
I don't know about the
speak to that,
snow.
yeah.
I mean, Austin, you ever played soccer before?
So I have played a little bit. I wasn't really big for me, but I know for a lot of people in my just age bracket in general, the reason why football and basketball and sports like that are popular, especially in disadvantaged areas, is because they're cheap to pick up, right? You know why a lot of people don't like us don't play hockey? Because you got to find a rink, you got to get the skates,
Pay for all that.
And so soccer, being such a low cost to entry, is popular. People enjoy it, and it gives what I would recognize, like you said, in the winter. I don't know, but I see kids my age play winter football.
Right.
I see kids my age, I'm saying me, not even kids my age, me, when it's raining outside, when it used to be cold, we were still outside playing basketball. So I think what it does is it really gives an opportunity or more exposure to another outlet. And you can recognize that even what you do with Stop the Violence. When young people don't have an outlet, you have so much energy you're going to use every day. And if you don't channel it to good, it's going to go to bad. So what it does is give another outlet. I can't tell you exactly what soccer is going to be for every young person in Buffalo that experienced it. But what I can tell you is that there are lessons and experience that you're going to learn through playing the game. There are lessons and experience you're going to learn through even being exposed to the game. And if nothing else, it gives young people something to do. So I'm definitely all for it. And before I even I want to touch on a little more on the marketing and the aspect of even outside of the game, as far as what it's going to bring to our local markets when it comes to like hospitality, when it comes to Airbnbs, when it comes to hotels. Before I get into all that on the pro side, I want to even ask more questions about the academy to say, do you have an idea of what that would look like? Would it require kind of a new building? Would it be kind of a high school idea where kids are going there for school or just for after school?
Yeah.
I don't want to get too specific because I know we're at a high level, but can you give me a better picture of what that academy would look like?
Absolutely. So there's a lot of different models in the U.S. for this academy. There are ones that are residential, like you just mentioned, where there's the high school integrated into it, and people who are from outside of the area have dormitories for housing. I worked at FC Dallas in Major League Soccer prior to going to Omaha and taking that club over. FC Dallas did it that way. They had a residential academy. And listen, that's great. And maybe someday, decade from now or something, we build to that in Buffalo.
And we said now.
Yeah, that's not absolutely necessary to have a successful academy. I think Louisville City is the name of the club in Louisville, Kentucky. Demographically, it is a very comparable city to Buffalo, and they are the most successful financial club in all of USL. And their academy, they have affiliate programs at the youngest ages. They send some coaches, they do some education, and they keep an eye on the players, but it's much more recreational. But then as the kids get older, they start to come into the actual academy. And what they've done so well is identify these local kids who have real potential, and they sign them to academy contracts. They sign them to professional contracts when they're 15 or 16 years old. A really good example that they just did, probably the best example in the league, a kid named Josh Winder, who black kid from Louisville. They signed him when he was 16 years old to an academy deal. He came up local soccer, then through the academy. He captained then they signed him to a professional deal at 18, played for them, did great. He then captained the U.S. national under-20 team at the World Cup a couple of years ago, and they just sold him. He got purchased by Benfica in Portugal, which is one of the largest clubs in the world. And this kid's making, big ton of money now. This is one of the biggest teams in the whole world, and he came up in their academy in Louisville.
Okay, so I have a few questions.
Oh, yeah.
Right. First of all, I know maybe that's the correct term to say sold him, but we probably should use a different framework when we talk about kids of color. So that's number one. Number two, I guess one of the things that I recognized when my son was at Canisius, I thought it was really important to expose him to what I call non-traditional things. So in other parts of the world, right, like we have other communities who are like here, but not necessarily from the Buffalo, who might be really attracted to soccer, but like no one was attracted to crew. Why? Because you had to get up at, it was 6 days a week for crew. It was all year round. They had Olympic trainers, all kinds of crazy stuff. So it's like a mindset that has to shift about the coolness of non-traditional sports. So I just want to just make sure, or ask the question instead of making a statement, when you're looking at that academy, I just hope or is there an intention to say, I want to tap into some of these poor zip codes of 14215, 14211, where you have kids who wouldn't know that soccer's cool. Like they only play basketball. You only know what you know, right? If you don't know, how do you even know that there's another possibility? Just had that conversation with a friend. People are living differently, even right now. So is there a plan in your plan to say, I want to tap into not just people who are already like exposed to it? So even when I hear that story, the questions that come in my mind is, well, yeah, he was from Louisville, but was he American, or was he in a community where his family understood soccer? Like, I just want to know. So what is, like, when you look at your planning, have you thought that far into like how you're going to select kids, or just making sure that it's inclusive of the whole representation of the city?
Yeah, in order to, to best benefit the city, it of course has to be completely inclusive. But let's also talk as the pro team completely selfishly. Our job as the pro team is to put the best players on the field and to win games and compete for championships. You're not going to find all of the best players. You're not going to uncover all of the best talent unless you are looking in all of the areas. You've got to be in at every field. You've got to be helping the coaching and the education and the exposure to the game at young ages, at every field, at every park around the city.
Find one kid.
Exactly. And yes, obviously we want to do that because it's the right thing to do in the city of Buffalo. But also, let's talk purely selfishly. If our goal is to find the best players, got to go everywhere to find them, and you got to help nurture them and develop them as well.
On pro level, that's what he's talking. More or less pro level, not the level that you're talking about.
I'm talking about the academy.
Yes,
both levels. That's for sure.
Yes, the academy.
Right.
The academy is a little bit different from your pro level because now you're involving colleges, high schools, and elementary schools as well. You might find that to roll that into the next level of a kid might have an opportunity from Buffalo, just like yourself, and to play these sports. Around, from Kwiatkowski and those players from this area, from the Buffalo Bills, had opportunity to play Little League football, graduate and now play pro football and all that. They're coming from a home base instead of just mostly just folks that already understood the game. And I think that's where we have to connect a little bit more.
Well, and that's also something that the best academies in this league and the best academies in this country, that's something that they do a very good job at is, yes, you want to be producing professional players and identifying talent that you can nurture into professional talent. Of course. But that's not going to be every kid. That's going to be one or two kids a year, probably. Right. You need to be educating those kids who might not reach that level, which will be a majority of them, on going to college. Maybe they get their college paid for through the game, a scholarship. Maybe they have other interests. Maybe they discover they're more interested in coaching or the front office operation and getting into the business side of it, whatever it may be. Right. The best academies in this country, yes, they are producing pro players, but they're also producing successful individuals who don't make it in the pro.
So the question is, because hockey players are doing this, I see them recruit kids at 15 years old. You know what I'm saying? Then when they're 18, they're giving them $1 million contracts. And they're not even going into the pro stage. They're just going into the sub stage and then graduating into that phase. Are you going to plan to have something like that happening, that we might have a group of young men and ladies that can go from one stage contracted out and then moving in? Because I'm always seeing hockey players at 17, 18 years old with $1 million contracts and never played in the pro level, but they just played in that other league.
Yeah,
would that be happening?
That absolutely happens, and I'm glad that you mentioned not just boys but girls as well, because as part of this USL expansion agreement that I have in place, we do have the option to create women's professional soccer as well. So building towards both of them, and that would of course include an academy structure underneath the women's team as well to give young girls in Buffalo the same opportunity that the club can give the young men.
Something additional that I hear in Latasha's raising, the thing she pointed out, is it's like nowadays, and the need is necessary. Anything coming into Buffalo has to look at where's the least of them that are being fed with opportunities. It is many more often, and quite honestly, it is the black youth. And so what I hear in the question, or not even a question, in putting out an act, speaking on it, is we look for something like this that you're doing. We understand the professional development you're doing, but at the academy level, it needs to be able to attract those kinds of people who don't know a dog. They know soccer exists. That's all they know. They heard of it, never played it, but might be that undiscovered person. And a lot of things that they don't know about is because they've never been exposed to it.
Yes. So I'd love to give you an example from my time in Omaha, actually. So they, when I came in, they had a program in place called the community clinics. They were sponsored by CHI Health, which is like it's a healthcare network in that part of Nebraska. And what they were doing with their community clinics at the time was hosting, it was 5 to 10. I don't remember what they started with, at the stadium, a free clinic, a couple hours, and it's for youth, ages 7 to 10 or so, free soccer clinic. They were doing it at the stadium. The stadium, they are remedying this now in Omaha. They're working on building one downtown, but it was a suburban stadium. And it did well. People came out, but typically the only people who were coming out to take advantage of this free programming were people that were living in the suburbs around that stadium. So what I changed in my first year there was, instead of we did the community clinics through CHI Health. It's a great program, but instead of hosting it at our stadium in suburban Nebraska, we took each one on the road to different stadiums throughout the city of Omaha in communities that were not making it out to Sarpy County, Nebraska, to go take advantage of professional coaching, and also just getting outside and playing and getting exposed to the sport for free for a couple hours on a Saturday in the summer. So the community clinics are something that have to happen here in Buffalo, in my opinion. It was one of my favorite things that we did in Omaha. But if we're only doing it in one place the whole time, we're just going to be helping that one place. We need to be taking it on the road.
And I know that, I know, so right. But I do think, because there was a young man that was here a couple of weeks ago who came from Burgard, I think it was. And I guess even in that model, when we're thinking about, because the question was never answered, so I don't know what the intention is to get into these other zip codes. But the second piece is, I would just challenge that thought about bringing it to them versus getting transportation to take them there. Because there is something about experiencing something you've never experienced before. And that young man talked about it. He had a scholarship to go to one of the private schools here. He went there and he was like, I never saw something. Even my son going to Canisius. I know you went to Nichols, but he went to Canisius, right? It's an athletic school. So you got exposed to some stuff that the average city school just doesn't. It changes your whole life. And so that's one of the things I would challenge. We're in Buffalo. Nothing takes a long time to get there. So 20 minutes can get you anywhere. So let's get them some nice transportation.
We're about to be, I'm sorry, go ahead. We're about to be going to to commercial break in a second. And so I just want to kind of summarize what I'm hearing, and then if we have any additional points we want to hear, we can definitely hit. I think it needs to be, for what they're describing, this beautiful balance between professional development and then community development. Because, for example, every great player at some point started with a love of the game. And whether I've been exposed to that since I've been a kid or at 12, there's probably, like you said, some real diamonds in the rough that haven't been polished. And for what you're saying, I think that there is an intention, or at least from the club that you've experienced, where there is a community piece as well. I just think differently in this city, because we are the third poorest in the nation. Transportation is a big thing. Exposure is a big thing. And so maybe there just needs to be some ideas for in the future, because you do have to have kind of groundwork done, but some type of cooperation between maybe even existing community partners like the Urban League, like other things like that, where you can have exposure to, even if these kids aren't going to be professionals from it. One of the things I talked about in the beginning was there's beauty in sports, even if they never take you anywhere, right? You may have played high school football and it taught you something that then you carried into your professional career. And so there needs to make sure there's a balance between what is providing for the soccer lovers and what is providing people who don't love soccer, because we all make up the Buffalo community, and we can have a better look at that when we get back from commercial break. But
we're still on our live.
Anybody want to say before we go? Okay, I think we all good for commercial break. Stay tuned if you want to join the conversation. 716-837-1112. We'll be right back, Buffalo. Thank you.
We're still on.
Still on.
All right.
What's up, man?
Let's go. Thanks for sorting this out.
Yeah. He called like, yesterday, and was like, he wanted to do the TV show. I said, okay, we'll get you guys on doing the Jim Anderson TV show. as well as the Apollo. I'm setting that up now because I have the open show. So we do something like this, format it out, do the same thing. Or she can send it to me or send it to Rob, and it can go on that time slot. My show is an hour long, so it's the same amount of time.
Right.
And it's here that she can just send this over to Mother. You can send this right to the Rob, and they can put it on as a Jim Anderson show in my time slot and go from there.
I think this is really good. It's a different conversation. It's going to stir thinking on many levels, and I can bet people out there listening are like, why that's important. And what we have to do is try and bring forth what we think they want to know, that not has been left out by you by any intention,
Right.
but we're bringing forth things that they see that can still be configured in because you're still working on it. I think also what we mentioned, and I'm expecting something good to come out of your meeting with Sheila, that would help raise it on two levels. That again, I see what you're doing cutting two ways. On that professional level, which is going to be great for the area, and on the what I consider the academy level, which is a really broad entrance for people to come in on different things. And the different things that need to be in that academy will be some of that. You maybe have to sponsor some trips that are allowed to take a busload of people to a soccer game nearby so that they can get the experience and see some stuff. And so many things you have available.
And these conversations are so valuable at this formative stage for me, because that point that you made about, providing proper transportation, I hadn't considered that. My thought was, no, let's go to them. Let's bring it to them. So, but no, you're absolutely right.
And the only reason I think that way is I'm opening a community center right now, so I would love to talk to you about that even being a consideration, because it's a big open space for kids that have had like a satellite, train them some things, and then they can go see something nice. It's just, I think sometimes we forget, and I try to remind my kids of our first world problems and our privileged lens, right? That there are kids, there's a lady who's next door. Oh, go ahead and do your intro.
You be going in on
It's okay. No, I'm watching the chat.
Good morning. Welcome back, listeners, to the Conversation with Jim Anderson show. We have a Mr. Peter Marlette, correct?
Correct.
Peter Marlette. See, I had to take the risk.
I
take the risk.
Let me find the page.
We have Peter Marlette talking about the development of soccer in Buffalo. Before we go back to the conversation, just again, if you want to call in, you can call in at 716-837-1112 and join the conversation. While we left, we were talking about collaboration and just covering up maybe the blind spots to make sure that this soccer development can not only benefit people who are in soccer and in that development and in that world, but also those who aren't in it, because when it benefits everybody, then nobody should be opposed to it.
Right.
And so maybe if we want to continue that conversation, we were maybe talking about on break, as far as just some of those services that may need to be provided, such as transportation, such as just additional coaching. You might even need things like language barriers might be an issue. A big percentage of the soccer players in the city come from that immigrant population. If you look over on the west side, especially around Grant-C, organizations like Push Buffalo and things of that nature have resources, have things in place around soccer because that's what that community wants. And so making sure that this program is completely accessible to everybody. And what I always say is the only thing that you should need to be successful here is a desire for a career in soccer. Right? Everything else should somehow be able to be mitigated. Any other barrier should have a way where even if we can't do it, maybe you have the referral for it. So I'm not going to continue talking just to talk, but if we could just talk some more, maybe we'll continue that conversation that we left on before break.
So the thing I was talking about is, since I'm in the process of opening up this community center, and then for many years of my career, I grew up in the suburbs, and I always laugh because people jump to the assumption because of what I look like. And I'm like, no, I didn't grow up in the city of Buffalo. I actually get lost here all the time, but I've had a heart for all the time.
Wow.
I grew up in West Seneca. Anyways, so I say that to say it's made me extremely sensitive of being the only one in conversations of it's no bad. It's not like it's bad. It's just I wouldn't have thought about it, right? I wouldn't think about that there are kids who've never been in their parents' car, right? Because that's never been my experience. Or I never think about kids who never ate off of a real plate or had a glass a drink out of a actual, or sat at the table with their family and ate. Like, I wouldn't have thought about that. But I meet every day by going into the community. Even when I hear people talking to their kids, I find we get mad because they're using language. That's the way they know to communicate. So I don't judge that. I just meet these community and kids where they are. But my big thing, and it's one of my life things, and I've said it since my kids were little, exposure equals opportunity. Research supports if you play organized sport as a woman, you are more likely to be successful in your corporate career, whether you never do anything with it ever. So why would we not want to expose these young ladies to that, right? So those are the reasons why I'm so sensitive on those areas. And even working, I worked in a field as an engineer. Most of the people I work with look like you, old enough to be my grandpa, and I'm leading them, right? So I'm always trying to think about the assumptions or the sensitivity when people don't know they're afraid. But once we can have that common ground with things like soccer or hockey or all these things, it just makes it better. So that's why I have these considerations. My son sent me a note and said I'm being aggressive, so that's not my intention. My intention is to just be, yes it is, because I know I can come off that way, but I just have a heart so bad for being an assumption all the time. And that's something when I talk to my friends who don't look like me, they just don't get it, right? It's not the...
We don't never hear from her. This.
No, but it's a passionate thing because even when I got into college, I laugh all the time. When my mom was a widow at 36, and she has 2 kids who went to private college, but we didn't get into any of the programs for $100.
Wow.
$100
short you from being
an EOP. $100. So when I got to my first job and there was a white guy next to me and he did get into EOP, I used to laugh because I was like, I got the student loan debt. He don't. Right. But no one assumes that. And so I'm really sensitive to just making sure we open doors for kids who don't even know. And
this is opening doors right here.
Yeah, this is opening up a door to things that people don't understand, because I consider still soccer to be a privileged thing that changes your conversations different when you don't play soccer, but now you're an engineer and you go to Omaha and you're the only one, but you can have a conversation about soccer, even though you came from the east side of Buffalo. Well, those are my passion.
No, and thank you, Ms. Westenica.
Down the street.
But also, what that's doing, we mentioned during the commercial, I hadn't considered that this would be better if we could provide transportation to give those exposures to new experiences. That's part of why I'm coming on radio shows like this and doing what we call our community town halls. Once a month, we go and host a town hall, and we're going all over. We did our first in the city. We were in Orchard Park last month. We're in Williamsville tomorrow. We'll be coming back to the city after that. But we're going all over to do these town halls. And yes, they're to get the word out about Buffalo Pro Soccer.
This is your first time coming here to this station?
This is, yes.
So Mookie has a show on sports here, and I'm quite sure Mookie Hawkins is going to be calling you to get you on the air and talk about.
Well, we might have something even better, Rise. I'm like, because Peter has a conversation coming up with Sheila, and might work out a little pilot, kind of like fishing in the water, because if you're trying to catch a fish, you gotta go where the fish is. And so if you're really trying to make it broad, you have to go where the availability of the broadness is. And I'll end by saying this: as you were talking, and I have written this down. Basically, what we're looking for and helping you to develop as you do this, while you're doing the corporate level, filling it out, we're helping put together what would be the ingredients for you as a community impact plan. Because that's what you're going to have to justify for people to buy in. And I know our listeners are like, well, okay, so they're building it. How's it going to impact me? And I'm just saying, this is not a Trojan horse.
Right.
This is really a grab bag of good stuff if we all handled it right. And we would be remiss to not talk about how much stuff goes over people's head because they don't get exposed to it. And not only being taught to, but being shown to. And part of it is, if they, just like with jobs, they sometimes don't have the wherewithal to get there. And I think it shows greater intent on an entity that's developing. I think I think doing something like what you just said, that's what led me to write community impact plan, things that you have to do.
And absolutely, no. And we're in advanced stages, but this is still very much the development stages
Right.
of this club, of this
Right.
business, of this program. So getting the opportunity to, and I hope somebody will call in and challenge something or bring something new to the table, because listen, I've done this for my whole career. I've been educated in this in the best programs in the world. I've been all over the world doing this job and building to make myself somebody who
You
can
look like
do
a
this.
manager, don't you?
But I appreciate it. But despite all that, I'm not going to come here and think that I can speak for everybody in Buffalo
Right,
or know
exactly.
what everybody in Buffalo is thinking.
That's right.
I need to hear it.
Right.
I only know what I know. So
You're doing good, and I'm gonna tell you, your demeanor is one that I see that I feel is of acceptance and welcoming of what has been happening in here, and I think we feel the same way because we're talking about real stuff that has a real meaning to personally to anybody who is able to get into the investment level on the corporate side,
Yes.
and particularly as we think about what will it do for our community.
So we want to thank Calvin Johnson for connecting me and you on this effort. We would be remiss if we didn't mention Calvin Johnson that does great programs throughout the city and sometimes gets blackballed when he's trying to bring youth to places like what you're trying to do, bringing them into community centers. And he gets blackballed, or he brings 10 kids somewhere and they say he can't play. It's always red tape. And when we try to get our kids in the programs, it shouldn't be. If I come with 10 kids in the program and see you doing a program, put them in and let them roll out that way. So where would you house yourself? Are you looking for a new building? Like the Bandits. We know we had the Bandits here. The champions twice in a row, and it started off like what you're doing here. Are you talking to the Pagulas? Are you talking to those folks there? Are we going to see you on the Buffalo Bills field this year with soccer instead of just football and showing some of that stuff? Is that in the plan?
Yeah, so I'm probably, actually, I know I'm not able to speak to who I am talking about ownership, but I am having real advanced conversations with some people, some individuals, some families, some groups who can put real money behind this and make it a reality. And I have raised a good bit of money as well. But no, there is not currently an adequate stadium in the city of Buffalo to host what we need for our requirements. So no,
the academy involved in that stadium.
Exactly,
Yeah.
with the academy involved, with the first teams involved, all of that. And also, Buffalo right now is probably lacking. There are a couple, but a real top grade professional field sports facility. And I say field sports because yes, this will be a soccer specific stadium, but it's a rectangular field.
Yeah, quite different from football.
Exactly. But you can fit a football field.
Yeah, you can put a football field in there.
Rugby, lacrosse, field hockey, whatever, ultimate frisbee, whatever it may be. And this will be a roughly 10,000 seat venue. It'll be a new venue. This league has stringent requirements on the level and the quality of the build and the surfaces and everything around it.
10,000 only? That's small.
Yeah,
Just start somewhere.
I gotta start realistic.
Before we continue to go too far into detail, I just want to give them a chance to be heard. We do have a caller, and you can go ahead and pick up right after. But caller, good morning. You are on the air.
Yes, good morning. This is Dr. Doyle.
Hey, Dr.
Doyle.
Yes, I wanted to, I want your guests to know that I taught in the Buffalo schools for over 30 years. And I began teaching in kindergarten, and I taught in South Buffalo. I never will forget it. The students in South Buffalo grew up with hockey.
Mm-hmm.
In kindergarten, they started grooming them. And hockey was a part of their phys ed program. So I want to ask you a question, and I wanted to say this. As a teacher, I always introduce my students to different ideas through literature, reading programs, and films. But I wanted to ask you, have you brought this to the attention to the board members to include soccer in their phys ed programs?
Yeah,
and then I want to also, my last question is, have you given information? We have 2 Black newspapers. I write for one of them. Have you given information to our newspapers? I will be glad to do an article for you.
See that.
So I'll hang up and listen to your answer. Thank you.
All right, that would be amazing. And thank you for the call, Dr. Doyle, and also for your career. I'll say my mom was a teacher for my whole life and actually just retired this a couple of weeks ago now. So I grew up with a teacher and an educator in the household. So, see what you've done and really appreciate it. I'll also say, yes, I have spoken to the Buffalo Public School System, and there's emphatic support for this project. Obviously, the International Prep Soccer Program is kind of the pinnacle of that, of the sport of soccer in the Buffalo Public School System, but every school needs to be touched by it, and this can provide that opportunity to, yes, hopefully incorporate it correctly in the physical education curriculum, or having, interscholastic teams, whatever it may be. And I'll also say part of what we're doing tomorrow in collaboration with the Independent Health Foundation is doing a soccer gear drive. It's through a program called Soccer for Success, which is a U.S. Soccer Federation program that is currently working with Buffalo Public Schools, Soccer for Success through Independent Health. And this gear drive that we're doing is going to be providing free balls, shin guards, cleats, that's really all you need to play soccer, to these programs that don't have them to provide for the kids. So yes, I have had conversations with Buffalo Public Schools. There is significant support and excitement around this prospect there. And also, yeah, we are working with a group through Soccer for Success that is already integrated into Buffalo Public Schools.
What they did wrong was this. They went to a school that already knows soccer, and they did not cross the line on the west side. The west side knows soccer like anywhere else. So when you say iPrep, they need to go to East High School as well. So do the pilot program for both schools. And so now, or do all 4 corners of the district. So now they all get it. You get what I'm saying? Because if you go to a school, they already know soccer, then it's just natural, like you said. Let's take it to some places that they don't know soccer and implement that in the plan as well. Because when I heard iPrep, I was like, they already know soccer over there. That's majority. That's what they learn. They don't play football. They automatically play soccer. So let's go to the areas that is first
without
yes.
I would also add, and it goes back to something you mentioned, because I think there needs to be a road in as well as for those who don't go through the institutional settings already set up, that they're not in a school per se, that they're already in the community and they got skilled. I'm saying, and this is one of the things about the healthiness of having this conversation, that we can see where some of the needs need addressing are. And yes, it puts a challenge on what had originally started out as a pro organization with hopes of doing some academy, but kind of like a little thing we got here called the 33. Mm-hmm. And they want to do something to it, but what they want to do to it is not enough. And so it's kind of like saying that what you want to do is a good idea, but it's saying there's some more stuff that needs to be covered in that thing. No, we can help.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what I was going to say. I spoke earlier about, yes, I've done this. This is my career. I'm good at this.
Yes.
But I need help.
Right.
I'm not going to know everything. And
right.
That's why I'm so excited to have the opportunity to come here and to hopefully continue developing this relationship and hearing from people like Dr. Doyle about publications that, I have a PR team and I don't know if they reached out to them or not. And we will now.
And this is the station. When you see our voice, our truth, our vision, where it happens, when anybody comes into the studio, it's going to resonate with power coming out. We're a community that have been in a lot of pain, as you know, you've lived here, and we've done a lot of protesting trying to get what we need. So we focus now on power. See, we know that there's some things lacking. We know we need them, and we know there's some sources that could help bring them in, and we pushing all hands to help with that as we help build those. Look, there's been businesses that come in that's rising with no contribution and good impact in the community. I think this has a good one because it's dealing with not only young people, but the opportunities. I know there's some coaches out there that don't even know they coaches. There's some trainers out there that don't even know they trainers, but having a role to say, oh, hey, I can really do this. And I just think I really do, Peter, think it's a great opportunity. I know there's a lot on you, but we're positioned to help in whatever way we can. And you know, I don't have to talk about the money. You know, that brother Peter used to say, those who work deserve to eat. You know, in other words, you know, look, we drop a lot of stuff that there are a lot of people who are listening now that are at a level where they can suck it in and it's valuable because they can translate it into money. We just sharing ideas and thoughts that we have sincerely, but somebody take and say, yeah, I heard him say this and be doing it with us getting no benefit, but it's all free. We gonna do good, and I'm gonna shut up.
And I like what you're saying, and I think that's going to be your special sauce if you want to do it differently and be successful here for everybody, and not have to have those divisions between, like we said, people who love soccer and people who don't. It's going to be organizational cooperation. I think that I work at Northland Workforce Training Center, and we do a lot of things where a lot of certs that we have in house, if we can't do them, we refer out. And sadly, in Buffalo, probably why we are so struggling financially is because we have a hard time cooperating. But I think that as long as you continue to come in with an idea of saying, I'm coming to serve this community and also still develop a pro soccer league, the key that's going to help you is, you're right, maybe you aren't aware of all the blind spots, but there's got to be organizations, there's got to be people who do. And just as much as it's your job to then go find them, it's our job as community members to go find him to say, hey, have you thought about this? It's our job also to have more conversation about this, to support you in what you're trying to do as well. So it's a balance in a relationship.
And I really appreciate that. And please, again, our website, buffaloprosoccer.com, you can find our email address there. You can DM us on Twitter,
number?
Whatever it may be. No telephone number, right?
You don't give yours right. That's his personal.
But not just a personal number, but just the business number. Because you'd be surprised the people that's on the station that will just call a number besides that email thing. So
all right, I'll get a business number. This is again,
Facebook page is buffalosoccer.com.
So the website is buffaloprosoccer.com.
Okay, Buffalo,
you can find us on Facebook. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram as well.
So remember, folks, Buffalo Pro Soccer, one word, .com, and check it out and keep up with this conversation. And my message to the politicos is that, we're going to work with you as long as you work with us because you're going to have to do some work. You know, some of that discretionary funds that you got, you need to track them so that they get the communities to help with this opportunity. I know you ain't gonna give it all up, but give some, other than just saying, "Oh, I like the idea." Thank you.
I'm gonna let us know. We only have probably about 5 minutes left, and I want to talk a little bit on what you talked about because there is a money aspect of it. Can you discuss? Because I know we talked about the academy in depth. But there is a lot of money that this can bring to the area outside of even just, like we said, the soccer players. Can you touch on maybe how this could influence the community when it comes to even the construction of the stadium, when it comes to hospitality, when it comes to food, when it comes to visitors coming out of town or out of state to come visit? Can you talk an image about how this can really revitalize the community financially?
Yeah, so the best recent example in USL in this league that I can speak to is Colorado Springs. They built a new stadium. It's about a 12,000 seater, so a little bigger than what we're talking about, but roughly the same thing. They built it right in downtown Colorado Springs as part of an economic revival development program. In its first season of operation, it employed over 1,000 people in that stadium. It also accounted for about $4 million of positive tax impact and about 25,000 out-of-state visitors, tourists specifically to visit that stadium. And they built that stadium in the heart of downtown Colorado Springs. I've visited it. It's a beautiful stadium, but it's nothing beyond what we're trying to build here in Buffalo. And I will say, though I can't reveal exactly where we're doing this, I've hired a development company to do some pre-development on one specific site, and it's in a neighborhood that everybody will benefit from the economic development of having a stadium in that neighborhood, businesses, residences, restaurants, whatever it may be. And then, the construction of a stadium is no small task. Now, I will say we're talking specifically about a modular stadium, which is very unique construction.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, all right.
We down with modular. It's already built at a warehouse, and then you bring it and you lock it together.
That's pretty much right.
Like a house.
That's pretty much right.
Yes.
But it requires
Yes.
electricians, it requires plumbers, it requires welders, it may be prefabricated elsewhere, but it requires people doing the construction work on the site and getting that employment. And you talk about then hospitality, food and beverage, stuff like that,
Groundskeepers, all that, everything.
All of that,
Jobs.
exactly. It's jobs, and it's not. So the USL season is 34 games long, plus playoffs and some cup. So that's only 17 home games.
Wow.
If we're only using this 17 nights a year, we are wasting an asset that can benefit us 100 plus nights a year. So it's not just going to be game day employment for some people coming in to scan tickets or whatever it may be, security, all the stuff that goes around hosting a professional game. We're also going to need to be hosting concerts and other events like that will provide more employment opportunities within the stadium once it's up and running.
Got you. And even to go back to what I was saying with that cooperation, a concept that might be good for you would be our own Patrick Freeman. Like last time we had a stadium construction, we had a constrained stadium work. We tried to talk about making sure that even when it comes to the contractors, that everybody in the opportunity, black or white contractors, have an opportunity to be able to get some of that money that's coming from that resources. So that might be a good contact for you to talk about how that looks like. But I really like the idea. I think that it's going to be something great for the city. We're going to be closing out in the next couple minutes or two, so I want to give you a chance to reiterate maybe any important contact information and give them a chance to say some last words. But I'm a fan. I think it's going to be great. I think as long as we, like we said, we keep our mind, we look for cooperation, this will be something that definitely will benefit the city. I think we just have to really make sure that we capitalize it and get it done.
No, and I appreciate it so much. And you mentioned, and I wrote it down and started a few times, organizational cooperation. That's the takeaway here. That's what we're going to need to do. Because I grew up in Buffalo. I've been away for too long, but the reason I came back is because this is an opportunity to change Buffalo in a lot of positive ways, to do something that has the potential to change Buffalo in a lot of positive ways. But we need to do it correctly if it's going to do that. So again, I want all the feedback, positive, negative, emails, whatever it is. Please, I want to hear it because it's only going to help us develop this properly. And again, it's buffaloprosoccer.com. And then you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter as well.
I'm sorry for y'all. He gave me the signal we heading out. So I'm going to say great meeting you, Peter, Jim, Mr. Murray, anything y'all want to say? But if not, thank y'all, Buffalo. We'll be here next week. Be sure to tune in. Thank you.
They need to get our
We
time
run it
right.